The life of travellers is changing. Many are moving into towns and making permanent homes. But most people of traveller origin retain a sense of shared history and kinship, a sense of brotherhood that survives internal feuding and external antipathy. Jock Townsley of Clachan, Kintyre, cutting willow wands for baskets. Jock, his family and his unmarried brother live in a bus, a bow tent and a collection of chicken sheds at home above West Loch Tarbert. The homestead is signposted, Home Sweet Home. Defined narrowly, there are about 1,800 travellers on the road in Scotland, but defined broadly, they are an extensive group, perhaps 20,000 strong. Mary Williamson has spent all her life on the road in traditional traveller tents, raising and losing children, setting up camp and being moved on. Now with her family she lives permanently on the outskirts of Loch Kilped. Mary learned her music and craft skills from her mother, Bonnie Bella Townsley. There are nomadic peoples, gypsies and tramps in most European countries, but the Scottish travellers shouldn't be confused with either. Few of them share the particular racial origins of the gypsies, and the communal family culture of the travellers is very different from the solitary egocentricity of tramps. To differentiate himself from a passing tramp, a young Aberdeenshire traveller once gave epigrammatic expression to this fact when he said, "That kind of lad's not one of us. Charlie Doyle just lives for day to day, but we," meaning the travellers, "we live entirely in the past." Elderwood is traditionally used for the carving of flowers. It shaves easily, and its hollow stem allows it to be mounted on a privet stalk. When traveller women go hawking, flowers are one means of soothing introductions at the door. In the Highlands, the travellers have never radically altered their ancient lifestyle. Among settled crofting communities, they've made a virtue of their habitual and traditional movement. Till quite recently, there have been the newsbringers, hawkers and peddlers. They gathered herbs and wormed dogs. In particular, they brought music and entertainment. Their bilingualism has made them an important source of contact between Gaelic and English-speaking areas. But they retain the explosiveness of a frontier people. Jock Townsley and his son Norman prepare to cut heather to make a scouring brush. Jock is a bagpiper and Norman a skilled hunter with snare and rabbit net. The Townsley children play with a pram still used for hawking. As tinsmiths and farrowers, as besom makers and basket menders, the travellers have provided the Highlands with basic craftsmanship and an adaptable pool of seasonal labour, but also a focus for local resentments. As the Jews have been blamed for killing Christ, so the tinkers have been blamed for providing the nails. But this allegation has been neatly turned aside by the travelling community to sanction their reputation for theft. For it's said that of the 4 nails set aside for the crucifixion, 1 was stolen by a travelling man. Grateful for small mercies, Christ has since turned a blind eye to tinker choring, stealing, at least every now and then.
Oh, what did he fecky a Lucy Hapney? The greedy old miser, he should have picked one. Oh, stall your mangen, here bangs the God ye, for we love Jesus, yes we do.
Little is certain about the origins of the travelling people. Only a minority can be immediately recognized by particular physical characteristics. Most seem to mix the features of various ethnic groups. Celtic, Norse, Anglo-Saxon, but also, not surprisingly, older Aboriginal strains. A strange myth has grown up to explain the Oriental appearance of the Caithness travellers. They're said to be the descendants of Japanese sailors, shipwrecked long ago on the Pentland Firth. Before the days of the Brillo pad, scouring brushes like these were widely used in the Highlands. Stories about the history of traveller families often concern royalty, the nobility, and Jacobite rebels forced into tinkerdom. Other suggestions make them the descendants of crofters put on the road as a result of the Highland clearances. The travellers are an adaptive group, but the vast majority of such stories are clearly fanciful. A traveller lifestyle was established in Scotland long before the clearances and the Jacobite period. In 1665, the Scots Estates ordered the transportation of strong and idle beggars, gypsies and criminals to Jamaica. Before the first migration of gypsies into Britain, there are written records of the tinkerers residing in Perth, and of that old traveller family, the Faws, living at Kirkyetum on the border. Basic accommodation has long been the bough tent, or wattle, a portable or disposable shelter that consists of a framework of sticks draped with some kind of a cover. The skeleton of bowed hazel or rowan saplings is very strong, and the igloo shape resistant to wind. The tents vary in size, but all are constructed according to similar principles, incorporating the dynamics of the round arch and employing a modular system of construction. Living units like these provided the beginnings of European architecture. The travellers retain a pre-industrial, a pre-agricultural sense of leisure. Work and play are hardly differentiated. They possess an aversion not to hard work, but to habitual labour and the discipline of the clock. The values and satisfaction of the farmer are not theirs. Acute awareness of the past isn't balanced by organised plans for the future. Far from being the flotsam of the ages, a kind of dropouts anonymous, the travellers are the heirs of a cohesive social group whose origins almost certainly lie in the pre-Christian era. Evidence suggests that they're either the heirs of a caste of nomadic metal workers who rose to play an important part in high Celtic society, or older still, the heirs of the Aboriginal hunter-gatherers who were pushed into northern Europe in the Neolithic period. The Townsleys recently applied for a house, but since local villagers objected to the idea of tinker neighbours, Strathclyde region are to build them a special house in an isolated spot costing £37,000. Now, with aristocratic disdain, Jock Townsley says that when the house is complete, he'll inspect it, and only then make a decision as to whether or not he'll live in it. Until the beginning of the 20th century, a fair number of travellers lived part of the year in caves. In bad weather on their summer tours, the Townsley family still move into the Tinker Caves of Kintyre. In Aberdeenshire, famous warrens of caves were abandoned as communal homes only about 60 years ago. As an old traveller said in the 50s, all those caves have been condemned now. In a technological society, we shouldn't forget the tenacity with which traditional social forms and ideas can faithfully transmit themselves over generations. The Highlands have always been a difficult area for agriculturists, and they still retain the geographical characteristics of Paleolithic Europe. The Mackenzies of Fortingal in Perthshire, Martha and James and John. Martha still burns an open fire in a tiny tent, little bigger than a dog kennel. Sheila Stewart sings.
My heart's been broken so many times that I may feel